Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you came to be here in this role?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Jack Pishhorn. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Peterborough Cathedral, very proud Chief Operating Officer. I started my role in January of this year. So my background is a whole magnitude of different areas, mainly focused on the visitor business. So I started my career very early on at Sackwell Farm. There I was an intern doing lots of important duties like duck racing and lamb races and all that kind of stuff. But fell in love with the visitor industry. Peterborough born and bred as well, so it meant a lot to work there. Since then, I've been away. I've worked in the Cotswolds, so working for Adam Henson's Cotswold Farm Park there, where I was a visitor services manager, so running all of the commercial areas of the farm park, and learnt so much there about how to make a visitor attraction commercially viable in the private sector. And then since then, I've been working in Northamptonshire, so as the head of culture, tourism and heritage for North Northamptonshire, so running lots of museums and art galleries and amazing capital projects, including the Chester House estate, which I'm incredibly proud of, which opened in 2021 and attracts hundreds of thousands of people every year. And then I started to think about what's next for me in my career, started to look at what challenges are about there. And I've always followed Peterborough Cathedral with great interest, obviously being a very proud Peterboroughian. But seeing the campaign they did last year, that survival campaign where they were going out there and really being so transparent with their finances and being very clear that very possibly they could have been the first cathedral in the country to go financially bust. And I never understood that previously, because I always thought that a cathedral like Peterborough, they'd be sat on loads of money, they'd have the Church of England in the background supporting them. With the finances, but it's not true. Peterborough Cathedral is very much a small business. It has a turnover of about £3.5 million a year, and it has to find that money, because otherwise Peterborough will lose this amazing cathedral, which would be absolutely disastrous for our cultural, for our tourism economy, and for all our residents and visitors of Peterborough.
Do you think people understood that? Do you think they really understood it?
I don't think so. No, and I'm still getting it now. Now we start to look at the commercial areas of this organisation and looking at our donations and giving. And as we speak now, I've got a massive exhibition downstairs, the Lego exhibition, or travelling bricks exhibition, shall I say? And I still do get a little bit of like, why are you doing this? You're a place of worship. You don't need this money to hold you up. But we really do, and we run things on a very tight cash flow here, and obviously we're doing everything we can to try and improve that, to try and improve our sustainability. But it's a mammoth organisation to run here, and the sheer costs. And only a couple of weeks ago, I was up on the roof of the cathedral with a load of journalists talking to them about the fact that we need to spend £10 million on this building over the next few years to ensure that it can still be here for future generations. And that's big sums of money in today's economy. So that's why I took on the role, because I thought, what an amazing opportunity to not just build my own career, my own skills and experience, but to actually make a genuine difference to the place that I call home.
A challenge, then, yeah.
It certainly is.
So you say you need to spend £10 million, did you say? What sort of things is that on? What sort of things need to be done?
So we have lots of financial challenges here. So we've been running the cathedral in an in-year deficit every single year, around the £500,000 mark. And the answer to that deficit every year has been to sell assets. So our property portfolio has shrunk year on year, which is obviously a huge shame, because it means that we don't have the control of those buildings. When we sell a building, we lose the lease income as well, which is so important to our P&L. So there's that issue. We've got a bit of debt as well that we need to clear as well, which has got some quite high interest rates. And then, of course, like any organisation, when you're running in a deficit, you stop spending money on your capital, on your structure. And that's where we find ourselves now. The team here have done wonders keeping this cathedral going for many, many years. But it's come to the point where actually we can't keep spending 10, 20, 30,000 pounds here. We need to spend millions of pounds. And as I mentioned, I took a load of journalists up on the roof the other day just to show them and highlight the issues that we have. And most of them are water issues, so water coming through roofs. And roofs I seem to deal with so much in my career in terms of leaky roofs. I've got lots of experience with it. But we need to do a lot of guttering work. We need to do a lot of tile replacements. We need to do a lot of re-leading as well. But of course, when you have water ingress in buildings and you don't look after your roof, then everything else starts to suffer that's below that as well. So we've got a big piece of work ahead of us.
Because I had some tiles done on my roof not so long ago, and that was £300 for about 5 or 6 of them. Now
Absolutely.
imagine
You can imagine
a building that's
Absolutely.
1,000 times bigger or whatever, or
And
no,
just trying to get up there as well is a challenge in terms of trying to get contractors working on the roof.
yeah,
And of course, the
specialist,
building we are,
yeah.
they've got to be the absolute specialists in their game. And we've got to go through the permissions and the scrutiny that we have on anything we do on this building is humongous. But for me, I absolutely love that. I love working in this historic
Mm.
environment. And I love the fact that we are just such a small blip in the long history and also future of this cathedral.
So you have these challenges. How are you going to tackle them? How are you going to bring more money in? I mean, but I should just say we are sitting in the library at the moment, which in and of itself is something you spoke about before we started recording. Tell us about some of the ways that you're going to make money. You've mentioned the blocks exhibition at the moment. What else is there?
There's a lot we need to do. So we're currently working on like a long-term business plan. So there's the urgent stuff that we want to try and do in year 1 and year 2, just to try and stabilize the finances, keep the wheels on, keep our staff being paid, keep heating the building, and keep doing those minor projects that we talk about. Then there's the longer term ambition in terms of where do we want to be in 5, 10, 15 years time, and how can we ensure this cathedral can be preserved for 50, 100 years time as well. So we're looking at a whole magnitude of different areas. One of them is events. So you may see that we've really ramped up our events program this year. So we started this year with our Catherine of Aragon festival, which welcomed tens of thousands of people through our doors. And that was amazing for January. Absolutely amazing
Yeah.
that people were coming from our city, but also coming to our city just to come and experience our history and our heritage. So we want to build on that. We then moved to having the world's largest dinosaur in the cathedral, the Titanosaur from the Natural History Museum. We then moved to the longest yarn. Then we have this amazing travelling bricks exhibition. In 2 months' time, we then go to the Mary Queen of Scots, and we have this amazing exhibition on tour for the first time in the UK. And then just this morning, just before we've met to do this podcast, I was talking about Christmas, and we were talking about big Father Christmas grottos. We're talking about light shows, we're talking about Winter Wonderland. So we need to ensure there's always a reason to come to this cathedral, and events is certainly the way to do that.
I'm right in saying it's the grotto. It's the first time in the cathedral, right?
It will. So it's not going to be in the cathedral because there's just so much demand for this space over the Christmas
Yes, I
period.
can imagine.
But we're going to look at how we can utilise some of our external spaces to be able to do some outdoor and some indoor Christmas activity. And I'm working with a very ambitious Christmas team to be able to do that.
Oh, well, super. We like the sound of that. There are things that you can and can't do with cathedrals, aren't there? Like, for example, one of the obvious ones, Halloween. Cathedral can't or won't touch that. Does that present challenges? Or because I know Chris is quite, I would say, adventurous in
It
the
certainly
his
is. Yeah.
outlook on what comes to the cathedral.
Chris's ambition is humongous, and I think that was the biggest pull for me coming to do this job, is that we had a dean that was so up for change, for doing new things, working in different ways. And he's so great. He lets me do so much here, including putting the world's largest dinosaur under the tower for a 6-month period. There's not many deans in the country that probably let you do that. But yes, of course, there are limitations, and things like Halloween. Why would we want to do that in this amazing space? And I think everything comes back to the spirit of why we exist and why we do what we do and what the cathedral stands for. But my job is to make sure that we try and push the boundaries, we find new audiences to engage with, we find a reason for people to be able to come 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, constantly trying to evolve and find new ways. And it's not just events. So yes, we're looking at how we grow our events, but you may notice we just opened our beautiful new cafe in April, CAF, which is doing very well. And the reason why we went for them is because they engage with a whole different audience to us. They're engaging with the youngsters that are on TikTok and Snapchat, and their marketing reach is humongous. And that really appealed to myself and to Chapter in terms of doing something new and working in a different way.
Okay. Can you tell us anything that's coming up next year?
So next year is very much in the plan at the moment. So we've got to try and stabilise what we're doing. So exhibitions, again, is going to be a big one. I can't give you any exclusives right now in terms of what they're going to be. But our aim is, as a team, we want to be bigger and better compared to the previous year. So what you can expect, although you saw the dinosaur and travelling bricks and Mary Queen of Scots and Catherine of Aragon, and you're seeing Scouting for Girls performing live here in the summer, we're going to be bigger and better next year as well. So just keep watching this space.
Okay. Do you think enough people in Peterborough appreciate the cathedral? The reason I ask that is because I did a podcast a few weeks ago with Toby Wood, one of the prominent members of the Civic Society, and he mentioned the fact that when he was a teacher, the students said to him that 90% of them had been to the Tesco on Broadway and 90% had never been to the cathedral.
Yes,
and you would think, wow, how can you not have been to that fantastic building? You don't have to pay to get in. It's an amazing, incredible
absolutely.
building. So is it appreciated? And that's part of your challenge to make.
I think it's trying to change the perception of a cathedral in terms of actually what we're doing within this space. And I think one of our biggest barriers and one of my KPIs this year is how we try and get people through the archway.
Hmm.
And you may notice we've had dinosaur footprints going through Cathedral
Yes,
Square.
and
We
blocks
got
now.
Lego
Yeah.
blocks now, yeah. And we're looking at the digital screen and banners and things like that. So how we try and get people through that archway. And I hear so much that people come up to our doors and they actually don't know that we're open, and they don't know that they can actually come in and explore it for free
Hmm.
most of the time when we
Yeah.
don't have exhibitions on. So it's about how we try and change those perceptions, but it's also about how we're trying to reach the audiences. So right now our marketing is predominantly print adverts, so social media, newspapers and adverts and magazines, and then it's Facebook. And
Yeah.
Facebook is normally where the older generation now sit, including probably us as well. But how do we engage with those that are 20 and 18, and how do we inspire that next generation? And that's the big focus for us right now, is how we start to tell our story on YouTube and TikTok and all those other platforms. I haven't got a clue how they work. And you may have seen over the last few weeks, we've gone out for a digital marketing media expert to come and really show us the way in terms of how we engage with people and we actually explain our story and our being. But it is a huge challenge. And I was watching a video the other day, and they were talking about Peterborough being one of the worst places to live in the UK, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
Being from Peterborough, I do not understand why people say that. But there was a young lad on there, and he was saying, "I've lived in Peterborough all my life, and it's a terrible place to live. All we have is that beautiful cathedral in there." So I think there is an understanding that actually we're very proud to have this amazing cathedral. But I think we need to do more in terms of actually getting out there and bringing people through our doors, doing the engagement, and also selling our story in terms of actually what impact we're having on the city as well. You look at our Travelling Bricks exhibition now, that's bringing thousands of people through our doors every day. If we stop doing things like that, what would happen to our cultural and tourism economy out those doors? What would happen to our restaurants and our accommodation and our shops? What would happen to our footfall in Cathedral Square? And I think actually trying to sell how important this organisation is to the city is just as important as well.
And is there any element of it that people think that you have to be practicing Christian, in effect, to come and visit? Is that a part of it as well, do you think?
I think so. And obviously Christianity is a huge part of our being as a cathedral. But we don't discriminate. Everybody is welcome. Everybody from Peterborough, all of our visitors are very much welcome for our doors. You can participate in worship 7 days a week, which we're very, very proud of. That you can join in a service of some kind 7 days a week here and see our incredible choir. But if you don't want to, you want to come and engage with our architecture, you want to come to one of our exhibitions, you want to learn about the history of Peterborough, our doors are always open. You're very much welcome to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So what's been the biggest challenge then in the first few months, year or so of being here? Anything that surprised you, for example, that being here?
So I think the biggest challenge we've got right now is our cash flow in terms of how we try and stabilise the organisation in the short term whilst we start to build for the longer term, because we really are, as an organisation, we go month to month here. I know we're always going out there, myself and the Dean, and we're asking for money and we're going for grants and we're asking for people to make donations at the door and we're building our events program up. And I think some people think they're probably being a little bit dramatic there. Does it really cost £5 per minute to run this organisation? And the simple answer is yes, it does. We're running a beast of an organisation that costs a lot of money to care and preserve this building and also deliver the activities that we're doing. And I think that's the biggest challenge for me, is trying to stay on top of just keeping the cash coming through in the short term whilst we start to look at the bigger aspirations of where we want to take this organisation in the future. But I think the biggest positive coming into this role is the team that I've picked up. The team that work at Peterborough Cathedral are the most dedicated people I've ever worked for and worked with. They care so much about this place. They all work well and truly above and beyond their hours. And we wouldn't be the organisation we are today if we didn't have those individuals that are just so invested, so passionate and ambitious about where they want to take this place.
I suspect that some people will say, well, there's a cost of living crisis at the moment and I am struggling to afford food or fuel or to heat my home, whatever. And I'm afraid that the cathedral, and more to the point, maybe culture as a whole is one of those things that I'm afraid I'm not going to be as willing or as able to give cash or donations as I can do. So your challenge is not just to sell it's to say this is worth. Thank you for giving your donations, and we are worth saving as a whole. I suppose culture as a whole in the city.
Absolutely. But we don't demand that donation. We don't demand that money. We are fundamentally a free to open space, and we are open for everybody in Peterborough and beyond to come and enjoy this amazing cathedral. But yes, of course, the economic climate outside, it does limit us. It is reducing our numbers. It is, it does impact our spend per head in the shop. But as per every chief exec that's running any heritage site in the country, everybody is feeling that. But I think this place here, we are trying to be something for everybody. We're trying to engage with all audiences, and we're trying to put value for money at the heart of absolutely everything we're doing. We don't want to become affordable for those families that can't afford a day out. We want to ensure they can still come and enjoy this amazing space. We want them to feel that Peterborough Cathedral is theirs.
Okay. Tell us, if you can, something about the cathedral that people might not know. Any fact you like.
So I think the biggest fact I have, and I'm sure some people do know, but we're the resting place for Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in Peterborough know that. But I'm bringing a lot of people from outside of Peterborough here at the moment, especially from Northamptonshire, and bringing colleagues and people I've worked with previously. And they haven't got a clue. They don't have a clue that we are the resting place for Catherine of Aragon. We were the previous resting place for Mary Queen of Scots. And all that history that sits beside that. And that's something that I think as an organisation here, we need to do so much better at actually trying to sell those stories and interpreting what happened all those years ago. So that's the bit that always, I suppose, kind of blows my mind, is that we are a resting place for one of our amazing queens. And that, as a whole, should just be an absolute reason to come and visit Peterborough as an overseas visitor, let alone for the people of Peterborough as well.
Well, I did the pod with Jackson a few months ago,
Yes.
Jackson, and he was speaking about the fact that we almost need to claim the stories of the 6 queens of Henry VIII. They were actual queens, they were people themselves, as opposed to just being the wives of a tyrant, basically.
Yes.
And that was one of his big things that he's very passionate about.
Absolutely.
These queens are queens of England, and maybe that's part of it, giving Catherine of Aragon that prominent place, as opposed to she was Henry VIII's first wife.
Yes, absolutely. I think the storytelling needs to be so much better here, and we want to look at those big grants so we can do a lot more interpretation. We also want to make sure that our events also incorporate that history. So also the Catherine of Aragon Festival is growing year on year, and thanks to Jackson for doing that, because he's an amazing volunteer that really helps push that forwards. And then Mary Queen of Scots later this year as well. It's the first time we're doing a festival just about her amazing life from birth to death.
Okay.
But yes, we need to do so much more. That is in September, so it's from mid-September all the way through to, I think, early November. So it's a couple of months here, but that should be our standout exhibition this year.
And how does that fit within the Discover Peterborough, the tourism offer of the city as a whole? Because obviously the cathedral is a very prominent figurehead or part of that, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're a very proud partner of Discover Peterborough, which is our local DMO for the city. And I think we've been crying out for a DMO in this city for many, many years. So It's so great coming into this role. And one of my first questions I asked Paul Stainton, my marketing director, was, what have we got in the city that's actually promoting us as a package? And it was great to see Discover Peterborough set up running. They've got a great website. They're really pushing through not just the touristy stuff, but also like all the history timeline of the whole city as well, and all the people that kind of sit behind those stories. So that's great. We've also got the local visitor economy partnerships, the LVEP coming for the whole of Cambridgeshire as well, which is going to be even more important, because that's going to hopefully leverage a lot more money and support from central government through to Peterborough, through Discover Peterborough. So yeah, there's a lot to be happy about. But I think one of the big things I've noticed since coming into my role is that we don't have the footfall in the city centre. So, like with Titanosaur, I think I mentioned to you just before we came on air that Titanosaur, it did okay. We made a profit for the cathedral, but actually it didn't bring in the footfall that I first thought. And I learned a lot, that being my first exhibition, of actually how delicate the footfall is in the city centre here, and how important it is that we actually invest in a proper tourism economy for the city, and we really start shouting about what Peterborough has on offer here, because we do have so much heritage, we have so much culture. Compared to a lot of other places, we've got so much more than them. And we need to ensure that we can piggyback off Ely and Cambridge and Huntingdon and all the visitors that are going to those places, and really start trying to sell and champion ourselves as well.
It surprised me a bit about the Dinosaur, because
Yeah,
it
it's
was amazing. I was here for the launch, and I came in a couple of times afterwards. But
and it brought in, I think, 22,000 visitors, so it was good for us. But I just thought bringing the world's largest dinosaur to Peterborough on the back of it being in New York, Beijing, London, I thought we'd have had 50, 60, 70,000 visitors coming through the door. So I think there is a big piece of work to do in terms of actually getting people to the city and getting people to understand about what our offering is.
hmm. And so, what opportunities do you see for cathedrals in the next few years or so? Not just here, but cathedrals over the next decade or 20 years or so. Is a different way of thinking about it. You use more digital screens. You mentioned earlier on those sort of things. Is that?
Yeah, so I think diversification, I think, is the most important thing for cathedrals. And I think compared to most cathedrals across the UK, Peterborough, I think, is probably the most diverse cathedral you can find. Because let's pick last Saturday, for example. We've got a massive travelling bricks exhibition in. We have an
Mm.
Oasis concert. We've had Evensong of our beautiful choir singing. We then have a sit-down dinner the next day
Yeah.
for 1,000 people. We are so diverse in what we do, but we need to ensure that we're still here in 10, 20 years' time. We need to keep that diversification going. And probably we're getting to our limits in the cathedral now and what we can do. So it's about how we start looking at what our partners are doing. So this afternoon, I've got a meeting with Peterborough Museum in terms of actually what their events and programming looks like and how we can be packaging up and working together to be able to create that day offer in Peterborough. And then also we've got a beautiful selection of property, all in the precincts of this cathedral. So how do we start to leverage and use that to develop our offering, to be able to generate more income, to develop more engagement for our visitors as well? And all that stuff needs to certainly be looked at. And then, of course, AI is the big one. I'm
Yes.
sure that's on everyone's lips at the moment. But how do we not become scared of AI? And how do we build that into our programs moving forwards? And how do we build that into the delivery and operation of the cathedral as well? Not just to try and save costs and use AI to run everything, but how do we get AI to do some more of that mundane, basic stuff? So actually, my amazing team here can be focused on how we can really push this organisation to the next level. And I'm hoping that we can leverage that.
Is that something you've been looking at already? Then
It
it
is,
must
yeah,
be.
yeah. So we just won a grant for a head of technology and finance transformation, and their first year in post is going to be all about AI. So looking at everything that's currently available for us, looking at all of our problems within the organisation. So gift aid is a great example. So gift aid is so important for us as an organisation, and basically for every pound you donate, you get back 25p from the central government, which is so important for an organisation like this.
It doesn't sound a lot, but when it stacks up, when everyone's doing it,
so
then
I think our first 2 weeks of the Lego exhibition has been worth about £7,500 extra for us. So it's really important income. But if you come in right now, you're filling in either a piece of paper, and then that piece of paper then has to be taken by our finance teams, and then they try and transcribe it and put it into the database, or our team are having to ask for all the details and putting it through the till. So it's a bit slow, it's a bit tedious, and it means numbers drop off. But if we can bring AI into that, in terms of how we can actually try and get rid of some of those processes, make it more streamlined, make it easier for our customer that's coming through the door, it means that our revenues are going to increase, but it also means that our amazing team that are having to spend half a day a week doing these gift aid forms can actually go and do something a lot more important.
Yeah. Okay. And what about you? How are you enjoying doing all this? Has it been fun since
I
you
love
joined?
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I think obviously it's a bit nervous picking up a job like this, especially when you read the newspaper articles that, regarding cash flow and money crisis. But I've absolutely loved it. I think before I accepted the role, I met with chapter and I met with the dean, and I really wanted to tease into what their ambitions were and how they felt about change and transformation. And they're so forward thinking, they're so ambitious about what they want for this place, not just for the cathedral but for the wider city as well. And yeah, I could see myself being here for a very, very long time, to be honest, because it's not a job that's going to be solved and done by the end of this year, that's for sure.
No.
But yeah, so far so good, and as I keep banging on about, I'm just so grateful that I've picked up a team that are just so passionate and care so much about the place they work, because that's just half the challenge sometimes, is getting your team on board. Whereas I've got a team including hundreds of volunteers that are just so up for pushing this organisation to where it needs to be.
You always looking for volunteers, or are we at a stage
Always
where?
looking for
Yeah, I thought so.
volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do they get involved, and
So
what
we've
can they do?
just
Yeah.
that's a very good plug actually. So we've
Yeah.
just developed a whole new volunteering system. We've just recruited a new volunteering manager called Andrea, who's developed a new online database. So you can go onto the website now, and there's a little tab on the top left-hand corner which says volunteer at the cathedral. If you click on there, you can see every single opportunity for volunteering at the cathedral. And there's so much. So there's stuff in worship, there's stuff supporting our choir, but then there's also running our events, there's exhibitions, there's gardener volunteers, there's helping in our office, there's administration, there's something for everybody. But volunteers are so important for us, and I know I keep banging on about sustainability, but if we don't have our volunteers, we wouldn't physically be able to open our doors. But we need to ensure that we keep engaging that next generation of volunteers, so we have that pipeline of people that are willing to help and support and grow us as well.
Okay. And just reflecting on, obviously you've come a long way, and now you have a prominent role here. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given? Do you think? What's the things that you've taken with you? Some of the sort of.
Well, that's a very good question. I think don't turn down those opportunities that look a bit scary. I think that's the biggest thing. I think my whole career has always been on risk. I picked up Chester House in a dire situation where the builders had left site, there was no money, and that really allowed me to create a name for myself and really learn skills that probably actually I wasn't ready for in my career. It was probably they needed someone 10 years into their career to be able to do. And the same with the cathedral as well. There's such an opportunity here for me to be able to come in, learn a whole new skills, build a whole new network, and also at the end of the day, hopefully, preserve a cathedral for many, many generations to come as well. So I think don't worry too much about the risk. I think especially when you're young as well, take those risks. Make sure you build that network around you as well. You're only as important as the people that sit around you. So build those networks of people that where you want to be in 10 years' time. Make friends of those chief executives, of those jobs that you want, because they'll open doors for you and they'll give you the advice. And I think find a good mentor as well, I think is the big one. So find somebody who you can call up in the middle of the night and say, I think I might have mucked up here and I need a bit of advice on this. And, find that person that's seen it, done it all before, that you can just bounce those ideas off.
Yeah, it's a tricky time. I'm glad you mentioned young people, because obviously that topic, young people come up a lot in the podcasts that I do, and about, you mentioned there about nervousness and pushing yourself to do the thing that you don't think you might be able to do. And like you say, but if you do it, you end up in a beautiful library like this in the end. It's whether people have the push to do it or not.
Absolutely. And I think for young people, they've got to get out there. So although qualifications are so important and getting your A levels or whatever the equivalent is these days and your degree, that's important. But I think the most important thing is actually being workplace ready. Go and get those internships, go and get those apprenticeships, take those work experience placements. Volunteer. And I know they can be annoying because you'd much rather spend your weekends with your friends or, sitting in front of the TV, but actually going and building that confidence up, building that skill set up, making a name for yourself is so important you do that young, because otherwise you're just continuously going to be catching yourself
up. Yeah. We'll finish with what I always finish with. Why is Peterborough such a great place to work, live, and or play? 60 seconds.
Good question. So the cathedral, I think, is one of them. But I think it's the potential for Peterborough. So I think Peterborough is an exciting moment in terms of the amount of investment that's happening here. The access from the train station coming through to the city centre. You've got the Hilton Hotel developments, Peterborough United looking for a new ground. You've got cultural hubs being built on the embankment. You've got Peterborough Cathedral looking at its long-term future in terms of its investment opportunities. I think it's a really exciting moment to live or to work in Peterborough, and I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities available in the future because of what all the local authorities and all of our stakeholders are all doing at the moment. So I think watch this space for Peterborough. I think there's so much potential here, and I'm incredibly proud that I grew up here, and incredibly proud that I can call this place my home, and hopefully get the cathedral to where it needs to be as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.